Hello, everyone, and welcome to What the Heal. My name is Maria Sellars, and I am your guide as we go together along this journey. So today, you get just me. I'm not joined by anybody. As I mentioned when I first started this podcast, that was my intention every few episodes, probably every 8 episodes or so. I'm feeling called to that number. I don't know if you know, but my birthday is 8/8/88. So 8 just kind of feels like like the number that should be my episode. So here we are, episode number 8, and you get me. Hope that you've been enjoying the conversations, that have been had so far. I know I've gotten a lot of joy out of recording them for you, and hearing the different journeys that people have went through. There's so much value in hearing other people's stories, because it really can help us to turn the page in ours. So often people just we reread the same page over and over and over again and beat ourselves up over and over and over again. But when you start to hear other people's stories and start to connect with them and resonate with what they have to say, it reminds you that you don't have to keep rereading the same page. Like, you can write a whole new chapter. So I hope that you've been getting some of that inspiration so far along our time together. With our episode today, I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive into energy work, into what led me into that direction, mostly because it's funny. So the other day, somebody tagged me in something online, and they tagged me in this post on a day that was very significant, and it was a post with this yellow snake with red eyes. And so a few years ago, it was the beginning of 2021, and I was kind of trying to figure out where I wanted to grow next. I was coming up on 13 years in my career as a body worker, and I knew there was going to be something significant when I hit 15 years. So I started to kind of prepare for that then. I'm never really planning for the future, but I'm always preparing for it. So kind of taking those steps and what things could benefit my future self. And of course, in benefiting my future self, I benefit my right now self too. But, I don't always know exactly where I'm going to head next. But I take the steps to kind of set myself up for when I get there. And so I was doing this meditation, and this particular meditation was taking you to be introduced to your spirit guide. And so I was doing the meditation, and my spirit guide comes, and it was this yellow snake with red eyes. And I remember being so fucking repulsed. I was like, what? This is what my spirit guide is? This yellow snake with red eyes? I don't want this. Come on, mind, come up with something else. But the next line of the meditation was, even if you don't like what you see, accept the guide. So I had to come to terms. This yellow snake with red eyes is my spirit guide. What is it telling me? So the snake said that I needed to be teaching. And so, I go through this whole dialogue. I'm like, okay, great. And actually, once I finished the meditation, I looked up what a yellow snake with red eyes represents. And it represents wisdom and teaching and sharing. So it was pretty on point with, this snake saying that I needed to be teaching. So at that point in time, I took it as I needed to start a massage school. And so I went through the process of getting all the paperwork done, which is a lot of paperwork and a lot of planning. And so I got through all of it and then submitted everything. And my zoning was not right for the building that I'm in. And if you know anything about my journey, I went through quite a big zoning struggle when I switched my business from the location that I had been in for 8 years to where Heal currently is today. It was a whole process to get the zoning taken care of. It took, I don't know, it was like over 12 weeks. I was having to call the city every day. I probably didn't have to call them every day. They were probably really pissed off that I was calling them every day, but I kept calling them every day because I was like, there's no way that this should be taking this long. I would call and I would just punch through random directories. It didn't matter if it was the department I needed or not. I was literally calling, hitting whoever's number that I could on there. My grandma always told me, squeaky wheel gets the grease or whatever it is. So I was going for it. Finally got my zoning taken care of and was able to open. But once they mentioned that there were zoning issues, that was the last thing that I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, great. That's fine. I knew that within my building, there was going to be this suite that was going to be opening up. So I'm like, perfect. I'll just wait. I'll be patient. And then I'll teach. And so I waited, I was patient, and they moved out. I reached out to the property manager and the suite was already rented out, which was like the craziest thing because I was in this building for 4 years and there was a suite that sat empty for almost that entire 4 years. How did this one, the people didn't even have all of their shit out yet and it was already rented out. So I was like, well, damn, okay. Back to the drawing board. So I kind of sat with it. I did another meditation and that meditation was like, no, it's not massage. Like, you're not to do a massage school yet anyways. It led me to realize I needed to be teaching Reiki, and which is something that is not what I ever thought that I would be doing. I have been practicing Reiki since 2010, and I went to it with my ex-business partner. Her and I, she was like, hey, do you want to go to this training with me? I had no idea what it was. And so I was like, all right, cool. I went to that training and I literally left that training thinking that I wasted my money. I was like, what the hell? What the hell did I just get myself into? And so I totally did not believe in that training that I had just went to. And so about 3 weeks after that training, my best friend from kindergarten, her mother had passed away. And so, I always joke, she was like my first massage client too. I used to massage her when we were kids. She was an amazing gymnast. And so I would always massage her and she would always say, oh, if you give me your massage first, then I'll give you one afterwards. And you know what? She never did. She never did afterwards. So if you're listening, Amanda, I still have not forgotten. But so she was my first massage client. And she wound up being my first Reiki client as well, too, because after, I went out there and spent time with her and we were in Arizona. We had spent the day in Sedona. And Sedona is an incredibly magical place and space in this earth. At the time, although I had just taken this Reiki training, I didn't know much about it. I wasn't too familiar with energy at that time. All I knew is that this place was different. There was something, I was like, something just feels different here. Come to find out, it is an energetic vortex, one of them in this world. And so, I didn't know much about energy, but I could feel the energy there. And so later that day, I was like, all right, hey, let me give you a massage. And so, I was working on her. She was pretty relaxed. So I thought, you know what, now is the time to try that Reiki stuff that I just learned, right? And so I didn't mention anything at all to her about it. I just did her massage. And then I went right into the Reiki session. And she did not move at all. I held my hand in all these different positions and things that I had learned, and she was just chilling, receiving. And so I was like, okay. I gave her about 20 minutes worth, and afterwards she sat up and she was like, "What did you just do to me?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "What did you just do to me?" And I'm like, "I gave you a massage." And she said, "No, what was that electricity shit you just did?" And I was like, "What?" Like, my eyes got all big, and I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean?" Because she was like me. We grew up in the Metro Detroit area. We didn't know anything at all about energy work. I had even taken a 12-hour training and I didn't even know anything at all about energy work. But like, it wasn't anything. And so for her to sit up and look at me and say, "What was that electricity shit you just did?" That's when I really became a believer, because I am always the biggest skeptic until I see things in action. And, so that was that moment, a defining moment for me as a Reiki practitioner, because I saw that in action. I saw somebody who knew nothing at all about energy work or what I was doing. She just thought, she's giving me a massage. And, she wound up experiencing Reiki and actually feeling the sensations of that, which was just so mind-blowing to me. So, she was my first massage client, and she was also my first Reiki client as well, too. So, Sedona kind of held a special place for me because of that. And so when I came to the realization it was not a massage school that I was intended to start right now, it was, teaching Reiki. So I sought out a teacher in Sedona, and I went out to Sedona for my training, and I was only there 48 hours. It was Valentine's Day, and it was funny because I had looked at my first Reiki certificate right before I went out there, and I got my certificate on the 23rd of April, which, I've talked about my thing with fives in this on this podcast before. So another one of my numbers, but five's always an indication that I'm moving in the right direction. And so, it was like, oh, I never realized, like, my original Reiki certificate level 1, I got on the 23rd. 2 + 3 = 5. And so here I was taking my master teacher training on the 14th. Well, 1 + 4 = 5. And so wouldn't you know, her address was 55, whatever road that it was on. So that was a pretty important sign for me. I'm like, what are those things called? A sign from the universe, that I'm aligned in the right direction. But as I drove up to her house in Sedona, I said to the universe, "Okay, universe, if this is what I'm supposed to be teaching, I want you to show me a snake while I'm on this trip." And I was only on this trip for less than 48 hours. Also, I was by myself. So, when you're hiking alone in the desert, asking for snakes might not be the brightest thing, but that's what I needed the assurance from. So, said to the universe, please show me a snake if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm at my training, which was absolutely incredible. If you know anything about Sedona, then Bell Rock is one of the vortexes, and the Bell Rock is actually in my master teacher trainer's backyard. So we were sitting outside, Bell Rock just over us in all of its glory, feeling the energy of that space. It was absolutely incredible. And then, I'm speaking with her, and she's telling me that, snakes are one of her guides as well, too. And then she tells me she actually has a snake, and it's a corn snake. And I've actually had a corn snake in my office before. But so she tells me about her snake, and I'm like, oh, I know a thing or two about those snakes in my head, because, she's telling me different things. And as we had our conversations, as we're getting ready to go into my final attunement, I asked her if I could please see the snake. And so she's like, yeah, of course. And she takes me in to go see her snake. And wouldn't you know, it was a yellow snake with red eyes. I was like, what? Like, universe, are you kidding me? I asked for a snake and you show me the snake. Like, how fucking crazy. How cool. It's so amazing, when you align yourself with your signs and ask for them too, for them to show up in front of you. But literally a yellow snake with red eyes. I could not believe it. So many synchronicities within that trip. And so, that was like, well, I guess I'm on the right path, right? The yellow snake with red eyes showed up. So the other day, and that was not January 14th, February 14th is when Valentine's Day is. So it was February 14th, 2022. Fast forward to now, must have been last Friday, so somewhere around April 7th-ish. But I had just made a really big purchase and also just got a new course that I'm teaching, Energy Work 101, got that approved. And so both of these things happen, which are kind of aligned with that whole path that this yellow snake has led me on. And somebody in a group that I'm in on Facebook posted a picture of her with her snake, and it was a yellow snake with red eyes. And one of my friends who knows the story, she tagged me and she's like, oh, hey Maria, it's like your spirit guide. And I'm like, no fucking way, because she had no idea that, for one, this new course that I'm going to be teaching was just launched. I don't know if that's why the snake showed up or for my new Aura camera that I purchased, where I can actually take pictures and capture people's auras and get better readings into their energetic bodies. Both of these things happened on the same day. And this yellow snake with red eyes showed up again for me there. And I just was completely mind blown, and also so very happy that my friend tagged me in that post, because I was like, you have no idea how much I needed to see this today. Like, you have no idea the timing of this all. So it's pretty incredible just to look at and see how this snake that I was originally repulsed by has slithered his way into my world, and keeps continuing to show up and to remind me that I am on the right path, and that I am taking, moving in the right direction and taking those right steps. So it's really great to feel that support from the universe and to be connected in that way. And there was a time in my life where I was so disconnected from all of that. I was so out of tune from the universe, from the world that was happening around me, and, truly from the world that was happening within me. It was better to not tune into all of those things and to distract myself. And I feel like that's a place, many of us are used to being in, is, what distractions can I tune into to keep me tuned out of what is really happening around me. And, we've got to grow through those layers that maybe are a little dense, a little murky, a little tough to get through, right? Because we don't just suddenly start living in alignment with the universe and having these doors open up in front of us and having, these things happen to remind us. Like, we've got to build that practice, and we have got to build that connection. So starting to recognize what your signs may be. What are those for you? Starting to tune in to the way that the universe talks to you, whether it be through numbers or songs or guides, allowing yourself to get in tune with that. Because when we can be in tune with the universe, we can live more in that space where we're not afraid to say yes, or even better, we're not afraid to say no. Like you don't have that FOMO. You say yes to the shit that aligns with you, and you say no to the shit that doesn't serve you. And you begin to live in that space. And there's so much beauty in being there. But we don't just start out there, right? We've got to fucking deal with the murky shit that we've been pushing down and, trying to pretend like it's not there, because it is. And, that's why energy work is so important, because it helps us to clear some of those things that we may not even realize that we're carrying around. There was a study that they did with rats, and these rats, they were given like a puff of lavender, and every time the lavender would go off, they would get shocked with this electric collar. I didn't do this study, so please don't shoot the messenger. But they would get shocked with their electric collars. And then those rats had babies. Well, their babies never wore the electric collars, and the poof of lavender would go off, and those rats, their anxiety would spike. Again, these rats never had those collars on. It was the babies of the rats that wore the collars. Well, then those babies had babies. So we're on the great grand rat babies. So those rats had babies. And when they smelled the lavender, their anxiety would spike even higher than the original two sets of rats. So their anxiety spiked even higher than the rats that wore the collar, and their anxiety spiked even higher than their parents who didn't wear the collars, but their parents directly did, which is so fascinating because it shows that stuff lives within us energetically. It shows that there are things. It's like I tell people are like, I don't know where this anxiety came from. I'm like, well, was your mom anxious? And a lot of it can go back to that. Like, we can hold people's emotions. We can hold people's energies that is not even ours to take on. And then we wonder, where is this coming from? So energy work helps us to clear that out of there. Just like if you were to grab a door handle and look at your hand, you would not see the bacteria and the viruses and things like that are on your hand after you grab that door handle. You don't see it, right? It's not there. Why would you see it? But if that was the case, like, why would we wash our hands? Like, we wouldn't be, if there was no bacteria and things like that, we wouldn't be. But again, you don't look at your hands and go, damn, these are really full of bacteria today, because you don't see it. Well, that's the same thing within our energetic body. We're holding on to things, auric debris and auric bacteria, things like that we don't even realize are there. And they're impacting us on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level. So, going through and clearing your aura, helping to balance your different chakras, like, that can make a monumental difference in your life, especially when it's like, I keep trying everything, but nothing is working. Have you tried energy work yet? Working with that. My grandmother shared this story with me recently, and so I had an uncle who passed away when I was 12. He was in a car accident, and he was 28 when he passed away, and almost all of his organs were able to be donated, and even more incredibly, almost all of the organ donors reached out and created relationships with my grandmother, which was so pivotal for her healing. And so being 12 and hearing some of these stories, they really didn't impact me. It had a big impact, but I didn't have as much of an understanding as I do now. So when she shared this with me as an adult versus as a 12-year-old, especially as an adult who works in the field that I do, it was like, oh my gosh. So one of the I was with her a couple weekends ago. The man who got my uncle's heart, Jack, which he was such a stand-up guy. Oh my goodness. At my grandfather's funeral, and I think it was 2015, Jack actually flew in. The funeral was in Michigan. He surprised everybody and flew in from New York to be there for the family, because he knew how special the relationship that my uncle and grandfather shared was. So it was just, none of us knew he was coming. And I'm like, wow, if there's anybody to get Uncle Scotty's heart, like Jack is the guy for that. So what a incredible human being. And he actually passed away last year. And so his wife and his sister and his sister-in-law, they all came down to spend the weekend with my grandma, which is just, again, another amazing thing to watch my grandma in that space, holding space for, the women who were family with him, and most importantly for the woman who held his heart, right? She was holding space for him in his passing. And I just thought, wow, that's so incredible to have that opportunity. And I was really grateful they invited me to share the weekend with them. But during that time, my grandma shared a story about one of the people, and I can't remember if it was a lung or kidney that they received from my uncle, but this person, after they went through everything, that you have to go through with an organ donation and then wound up getting out of the hospital, she was taking herself to her first checkup. And, she'd been seeing this doctor waiting on the organ. So she had been to many doctor's appointments at this office. And so she was very familiar with the drive. She's driving there. And she got to the railroad tracks and was like, I can't go over there. She started crying, started, having a panic attack. And she called her doctor. She's like, I cannot come in. I cannot go to this appointment. I can't go over these tracks. And so the doctor just said, one day you'll understand. And so, when I spent the weekend with my grandma, she was sharing with me sharing with all of us how, that happened to that woman in that story. And my uncle, it was actually a train accident that he passed away in. So this woman had no prior train trauma, but she did receive my uncle's organ. And so when it came time for her to go over those tracks, that energy, that fear is still living within that organ. So she had no idea where this is coming from, where suddenly she can't drive over the train tracks. But, when she met my grandma and learned that that's the accident that he was in, it all made sense to her. And, for me, hearing that within the realm of work that I do now and working with energy, I was like, holy cow. I mean, it just shows, right? They taught us in school, energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred. And so it shows that transfer that took place. And to see that and to hear that and to know that, I was like, wow, those are the types of things that make me wish that more and more people, which they are, but would give energy work a chance. I mean, you flip the light switch on in your house every day, but energy work is the chance for you to flip the light switch on in your life. You don't have to live in the dark. You are allowed to live in the light. You are light. And energy work is a way that helps you get back to that. So, if you are sick of feeling sick and tired and stressed and anxious and worried and in fear and shameful and guilty and all of those different thoughts that are so fucking heavy in the mind, please know that you don't have to live like this. Like, you are allowed to live lighter, and energy work may just be what you need to help start living brighter. So if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, I would love the opportunity to chat with you and connect with you and to help you flip that light switch on, because you deserve to live in the light, and you don't have to be stuck with all of that heaviness that you're holding. And some of that heaviness isn't even yours to hold. So let's work together. You can find me on Instagram at Orlando Energy Worker, or of course you can connect with me here. So thank you so much for tuning in. I value your time and I'm so grateful that you share it with me. Can't wait to talk to y'all next week.